management sided with my manipulative coworker after he took credit for my work, secured my promotion, and walked away with a $55,000 bonus. I was told to be useful like him while he smiled. Then everything unraveled and the CEO came asking for help. Hey Reddit, I'm a 36-year-old male and I've known Chase since college. We were roommates sophomore year at a large state university in the Northeast. I tutored him through statistics in 2011 because he was close to failing out. 8 months ago, Chase was laid off from his marketing job. It was his third job loss in 4 years. He was 2 months behind on rent, his credit cards were maxed out, and he was openly talking about moving back in with his parents at 35. So I helped him get a job. I walked into Andrea's office. Andrea was the director of operations at Velocity Logistics. I used 12 years of professional credibility for one request. I told her Chase was smart, adaptable, and a team player. I slightly overstated his technical ability, but I believed he could contribute. I set expectations with him privately. Show up, learn, and don't make me regret this. That was the deal. Andrea hired him because in 12 years I had never asked for a favor. The one time I did, it was for Chase. I remember thinking it was a calculated move, like placing a solid bet. Paula even said it was a good thing I did. For context, during those 12 years, I ran infrastructure at Velocity Logistics, a publicly traded company. Leadership focused far more on optics than engineering. The year before, I rebuilt the entire routing system. That project saved the company $7 million within 4 months. It reduced fuel costs by 23% and cut a full day off delivery times across 3 time zones. I had asked 3 times in writing for a second engineer and a proper on-call rotation, denied each time. I requested funding to fix a known cascading system vulnerability, denied. I asked for proper attribution on projects I built. That was considered an optics issue. I documented every request and every rejection. I don't complain, I document. Andrea took credit for the routing rebuild during a quarterly meeting. She presented it to over 400 employees as her initiative. She used my slides, my data, and even quoted a line from my report word for word, as if it were her own idea. I didn't let it go quietly. That afternoon, I replied all to the deck distribution email, attached my original report, my commit history, and included a brief note. Source materials attached for reference. Happy to walk through the methodology. No accusations, no drama, just the evidence, visible to everyone. Andrea never acknowledged it. She didn't need to. Anyone who opened that email understood. Chase, the friend I had gotten hired 8 months earlier, stood up and applauded her from his ergonomic chair. I noticed everything. I always did. I kept detailed records, commits, reports, late-night fixes, all time-stamped. That wasn't paranoia. That was professional discipline. I told myself to keep doing good work and let things accumulate. The record turned out to be the only thing that mattered. Watching your best friend get handed a title and a large bonus doesn't hurt because of the money. It hurts because you watch them change in real time. We were about 6 weeks out from Black Friday. Volume was climbing fast. Management was nervous. Amazon had just hired away 2 of our strongest engineers. Leadership announced a strategic retention initiative. Andrea told us they were taking care of key players and valued loyalty. Chase was promoted, Senior Innovation Lead, corner desk near the windows, close to Andrea's office. Within a week, he was different. It started with him restructuring communication flows, which meant CCing leadership on everything and putting his name first in every email. He created a Slack channel called #InnovationPipeline and posted non-stop, mostly links to Forbes articles and TED Talks, nothing he had actually built. Then the tone toward me changed, not behind my back, directly in meetings. During a stand-up, I explained a patch I had run over the weekend to stabilize the system during a traffic spike. Chase interrupted me mid-sentence. "That's the reactive approach," he said, leaning back confidently. "What I'm working on is a system where we don't need these Band-Aid fixes." That Band-Aid patch preserved $2 million in revenue over the weekend. I responded calmly, "That patch preserved $2 million in revenue over the weekend. I'm happy to walk through the architecture." The room went quiet. Chase laughed it off. Days later, he sent a company-wide email titled Rethinking Our Approach to Systems Resilience. It was 3 paragraphs of polished language that said very little. Below that was a list of initiatives he claimed to be leading. Every item was a renamed version of proposals I had submitted over the previous 2 years, proposals Andrea had rejected. The worst example was my load balancing script. I had written and committed it 6 months earlier to our internal GitLab. Chase copied the code into a new repository, recommitted it under his own name, and demoed it as his work. The original repository with my commits was still there. He assumed no one would check. I didn't confront him immediately. I pulled the original commit logs, captured the metadata, saved everything to my personal drive, and forwarded archived proposals to my personal email. I filed an IT security ticket documenting the unauthorized repo clone and rewritten history. Later, I mentioned it casually over coffee. I told him those initiatives were my proposals. He smiled, clapped my shoulder, and said he was just giving them new life, getting leadership to pay attention. He said I should be thanking him. I replied, "Noted. It was already documented." After that, he began assigning me work. Not asking, assigning. Slack messages like, "Can you pull uptime numbers for my report?" or "I need diagnostics before my meeting with Andrea." I responded publicly once, "I don't report to you. Loop me in through Andrea." I saved the screenshot. He stopped assigning tasks in writing and reframed them as favors. I declined those too, always in writing. The comments continued. At a team lunch, someone asked about the Atlanta warehouse recovery from 2 years ago, the one where I drove 14 hours and rebuilt 3 servers myself, saving $2.1 million. Chase jumped in and reframed it as hero culture and duct tape solutions. I corrected him, quietly, with numbers. The younger engineers noticed. Some gravitated toward Chase. He took them to lunch and talked strategy. When they had technical questions, he'd message me privately, get answers, and relay them as his own. I confirmed it when one engineer thanked Chase in a meeting for solving a database issue I fixed at 11 p.m. 2 weeks before everything collapsed, we had an all-hands meeting. Andrea presented the Black Friday plan and then handed it to Chase for the technical readiness assessment. The slides were my data, my analysis, rebranded. She framed my work as outdated, reactive, and unsustainable. She contrasted it with her proactive innovation strategy. Andrea supported him publicly. When told to be useful like him, I raised my hand and corrected the record, calmly, once. After the meeting, Chase acted like nothing happened, told me I'd be fine, said not everyone is meant to lead. That night, I reviewed my contract. No on-call clause, no after-hours requirement. I checked consultant rates, $250 to $400 an hour. For the next 2 weeks, I did exactly what my job required, nothing more. I documented everything Chase touched. Then, during a late-night traffic spike a week before Black Friday, I saw a document printed outside Andrea's office. Confidential retention allocations. Chase, $55,000 retention bonus. Me, $4,200 appreciation stipend. I read it 3 times. $55,000 for the person I got hired 8 months ago. $4,200 for the person who built the system holding everything together.
That wasn't a rounding mistake. That was your closest friend watching you struggle and using your own work to save himself. I wasn't shocked. I felt focused. I photographed the document front and back, then walked back into the server room. Chase was still panicking. The dashboards were still red. The system was still collapsing. I placed my security badge face down on the desk. I opened a resignation email to HR. Timestamp, 2:47 a.m. 5 lines. Effective immediately. Company property returned. Badge left on desk. Laptop, keys, drawers cleared. No company equipment retained. Access revoked. No negotiation requested. None expected. I saved it to drafts. I packed my personal bag. 1 backpack. Nothing that belonged to them. Chase stared at me, wide-eyed. "Why are you packing?" "Shift's over, Chase." I put the bag on my shoulder. "Good luck." "You can't leave. We're in a P1. Andrea will..." "She can deal with it. I don't work here anymore." I walked out through the double doors, past the lobby poster that read, "Teamwork makes the dream work," and into the cold November air. In the parking lot at 2:52 a.m., I hit send. I screenshotted the email, then the sent confirmation. I forwarded both to my personal Gmail. My phone started buzzing before I left the lot. I silenced it and drove home with the windows down. Behind me, the entire East Coast shipping network went dark. Not slow, not unstable, dark. Trucks locked at loading bays in Jersey City, sorters in Atlanta stopped mid-run. Tracking for over 3 million packages vanished. I didn't break anything. I just stopped holding it together. After that resignation email, I had zero access until a contractor agreement was signed the next day. I got home around 3 a.m., brewed coffee, the good beans I'd been saving, and sat on the back porch. The neighborhood was quiet. Crickets, an occasional truck on the highway, probably one of ours, probably stuck. My phone kept lighting up. Andrea, 14 missed calls. Chase, 22. System alert after system alert. Critical failure. Database corruption. The system wasn't flawed by design. It was sensitive. When traffic crossed a certain threshold, you had to run a precise manual rebalancing process in sequence, or the routing tables would corrupt and cascade. I had flagged this issue for 3 years. I wrote a 14-page proposal. Andrea skimmed the cover. Not in the budget, just keep it running. So I did. I also wrote step-by-step emergency instructions and stored them on the shared drive where anyone could access them. Chase didn't read documentation. He read the 4-hour work week. He watched videos about founder mindset while the platform he claimed to oversee collapsed. At 3:30 a.m., Andrea texted, "Nick, answer now. We're losing money. If you don't respond, I'm calling legal." Legal? Their response was to threaten someone who walked out with one backpack and no company property? I didn't touch their systems. I didn't delete anything. I left. If that was enough to shut them down, that wasn't my fault. That was their infrastructure strategy. At 4:15 a.m., Paula came downstairs. She saw the coffee, my phone vibrating nonstop, my expression. "Did you get fired?" "No, I quit." I told her everything. The $55,000 versus $4,200, Chase, Andrea, the rejected proposals, 12 years being the entire disaster recovery plan for a billion-dollar company that valued me at $4,000, the memo in the printer, Chase panicking at his desk while the screens went red. Paula didn't panic. She read Andrea's messages, lawsuits, police, career threats. Then she scrolled through Chase's missed calls. "Let it burn," she said. She kissed my forehead and went back to bed. At 4:45 a.m., the messages changed from threats to bargaining. "Nick, I know the numbers are bad. We can talk." 5 minutes later, Chase made it worse. He ran some command he found online. More systems failed. I laughed. He was searching fixes and running them live on production, affecting millions of shipments. That wasn't bold. That was negligent. At 5:30 a.m., a warehouse supervisor I knew for years texted, 47 trucks stuck, drivers sleeping in cabs, gates frozen. I felt bad for him. Good guy, but it wasn't my responsibility anymore. I went to sleep at 6 a.m. For the first time in years, I slept well. By that afternoon, the damage spread beyond the company. Velocity handled last-mile shipping for 3 major retailers. If you ordered anything online in the East Coast in the past 5 years, one of our trucks likely delivered it. Tracking pages went blank. "Where's my package?" trended. Call centers hit 3-hour hold times with no answers. 2 major clients triggered SLA violations and redirected shipments. The stock dropped pre-market. The board convened an emergency meeting. By the next day, the story hit mainstream news. A major electronics retailer prepared an $8 million breach claim. That kind of loss doesn't disappear with an apology. I was eating breakfast when a black sedan pulled into my driveway, company plates. Andrea stepped out with an HR representative and a manila envelope. Inside was a return offer, a temporary contractor agreement, and an NDA. The CEO had ordered a personal visit. Andrea looked exhausted, no makeup, wrinkled blazer. First time I'd seen her look human. The HR rep stayed in the car, engine running. She knocked. I opened the door, coffee in hand, sweatpants, t-shirt. "Nick, we need to talk. Chase tried to fix it. He made it worse." She explained the damage, wrong backup, overwritten configs, lost credentials. I nodded. Sounds like an innovation issue. Ask Chase to apply his strategy. She held up the envelope. The CEO authorized this. We're losing millions. I know. I saw the memo. She froze. That was a draft. Chase got $55,000. I got $4,000. I got him hired, and you decided the guy talking about my work was worth 13 times more than the person doing it. She offered money, $30,000 immediately. No. She begged, threatened. I stayed calm. I didn't break anything. I stopped volunteering, and my lawyer will ask why a salaried employee with no on-call clause was your entire disaster recovery plan for 12 years. She left without another word. That evening, recruiters reached out. A competitor's VP messaged me. Saw the news. Let's talk. The next day, the CEO called. $12 million in projected losses. Andrea removed. Chase locked out. He asked what it would take. I don't want the job back. I come in as an independent contractor. $400 an hour, 100-hour retainer, paid up front. I work alone. Silence. Contract signed by 6 p.m. My lawyer killed the non-compete. $40,000 hit my account that night. Later, a coworker told me the truth. Chase had pitched himself as my translator early on, told Andrea I lacked executive presence, said I wouldn't leave, said I was retained by fear. That's when it all made sense. Friday morning, I walked back in with a visitor badge. The place was empty, whiteboards filled with panic notes, "Call Nick" in red. Andrea's office was dark. Chase's desk was cleared. His calendar sat in the trash. Before touching anything, I walked the floor. 12 years keeping that place alive, and I needed a visitor badge to enter.
The 4 a.m. entry read, "Nick not answering, exploring alternatives." The 6 a.m. entry followed, "No alternatives found." I took a photo of the whiteboard. Not out of spite. I wanted evidence. A billion-dollar company brought to a standstill, and the board boiled it down to one truth. There was no backup. That mattered. I sat down and started working. The root cause was a known cascade vulnerability I had documented in a 2021 incident report, the same report Andrea had ignored. Chase made the situation far worse by forcing a full system restart at the worst possible moment, scrambling routing data. Then he restored the wrong backup, overwrote 6 months of configuration settings, and changed several admin credentials during the panic without recording any of them. The system wasn't just down, it was corrupted. Half the access points were locked behind passwords Chase couldn't recall. This wasn't a simple outage, it was a full reconstruction. But I knew the system the way you know a house you built yourself. I had a disaster recovery snapshot stored on a separate drive, standard practice for anyone actually responsible for infrastructure, even though Andrea never approved the storage cost. I knew the exact order required to bring things back online. You couldn't restore everything at once. Database first, then routing tables, then the API layer, then sorter connections, one layer at a time, or the failure would cascade again. 6 straight hours, no breaks, no calls, just me and 12 years of system knowledge. At 1:15 p.m., the status dashboard began turning green, one service at a time. 3 million packages reappeared. Sorters in Atlanta resumed. Trucks in New Jersey started moving. I could hear cheering from the war room down the hall. Someone actually shouted. I didn't react. I kept working until every indicator was green. Then I did one more thing. I wrote a small program to automate emergency load balancing. No human intervention required. 20 minutes of work that would have prevented the entire failure. The same solution I had proposed for 3 years. 3 years of not in the budget. Built in 20 minutes, sitting at my old desk wearing a visitor badge. Finished at 1:47 p.m. I printed my invoice and walked it into the CEO's office. He was on the phone with what sounded like an angry board member. He wrapped up the call and looked at me. "You're done?" "Yes. Everything is stable. I automated the balancing process. You won't need someone manually fixing this at 3 a.m. anymore. Even a senior innovation lead could manage it now. He leaned back, studied me, and said they were prepared to discuss an executive role, real compensation, equity, a leadership seat. I laughed, not bitterly, honestly, the kind of laugh that comes when the full picture finally makes sense. You had that guy for $110,000 a year. For 12 years, you let his best friend convince you he wasn't worth keeping. You let someone who couldn't tell a server rack from a bookshelf decide he was worth $4,200 while giving $55,000 to someone whose biggest contribution was breaking Slack automations. You don't have a talent problem, you have a loyalty problem, and I'm too expensive to fix that. I walked out of the building for the second time that week. The sun was out, November air, dry leaves on the pavement. I stood in the parking lot for a moment, breathing. No alerts, no Slack messages, no one expecting me to save something they refused to maintain. The quiet felt unfamiliar. I called Paula from the car. "It's done." She didn't ask about money or details. She just said, "Come home. I'll make a real dinner, candles and all." I sat there a minute after hanging up. 12 years of being reliable, 12 years of delivering and documenting everything, and the only person who ever fully saw it was waiting at home. I started my consulting firm a few weeks later. Just me, a laptop, and 12 years of understanding where logistics systems fail. The fallout at Velocity came in waves. The board brought in outside counsel. A formal investigation followed. Access audits showed Chase logged into systems he had no authorization to touch, including the repository with my code. A production freeze was imposed across the company. Andrea was placed on administrative leave, then quietly terminated. Mutual separation, no extra severance. Chase was terminated for cause, misrepresentation of qualifications, and unauthorized system access during the outage. His reference file was flagged, HR shorthand for confirming employment dates only. 2 of Velocity's top 3 retail clients exited, an 8-figure loss before the quarter closed. 2 VPs followed Andrea out. My first client was the same competitor whose VP messaged me after I updated my LinkedIn. He said, "We watched this happen in real time. We need to make sure it never happens to us." My rate was $250 an hour. They agreed immediately. Within a year, I had 4 clients, all Velocity competitors, all paying more per month than Velocity paid me annually. I hired 2 former Velocity engineers laid off during the collapse, skilled people who had been undervalued. No innovation leads, no buzzwords, just competent teams solving real problems and being paid accordingly. 6 months later, Velocity was acquired by private equity. Assets stripped, fleet sold, client contracts auctioned. 2 ended up with my clients, which felt appropriate. The system I had kept alive for a decade was replaced with off-the-shelf software. Most of the capable staff were gone within 90 days. The CEO received his exit package. Andrea landed at a mid-size firm doing operational consulting and posted about her next chapter on LinkedIn. I didn't engage. Chase texted me once a month later. "Hey man, can we talk?" I stared at the message for a long time. Same back porch, same coffee. Thought about the couch he slept on, the meals Paula made him, the stuffed elephant he gave my daughter. Then I thought about that all-hands meeting, his smile while telling 50 people I wasn't leadership material, the words he used in Andrea's office, "Nick's too scared to leave." I blocked the number. No reply. Some bridges don't burn, they disappear. A few weeks later, the warehouse supervisor from New Jersey texted. The drivers pooled money for a gift card to my favorite steakhouse. The card said, "Thanks for keeping the lights on all those years." I keep it on a shelf, a reminder that the people doing the work Always know who's holding things together, even when leadership doesn't, even when a friend doesn't. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. It helps the channel grow and allows us to bring you more stories like this. Thanks for watching.